So this has been something I've been meaning to look at for a little bit. I picked this up at the Disney outlet store in Marysville, Washington. Oh, gosh, I think almost 2 months ago now. I keep forgetting. I still have it sitting there. It was on a clearance price, so it was cheaper than what it is in the park. But this is the Voodoo doll prop replica type thing that they have in the Disney parks. They had several of those prop replicas. It was probably the cheaper one. I want to say I got this for around $60. I don't even remember now. But it was cheaper, and I was like, oh, sure, I'll go ahead and get it. And I've looked at it already. It comes in this cool box. You can see Temple of Forbidden Eye right there. Top secret stuff, all that. Epic Stunt Spectacular. All sorts of Temple of the Crystal Skull. That's the Japan one. I've actually been to that one. That was cool. And Voodoo doll. On the very top says Indiana Jones. Now this is just a slip cover. You take this off. And there we have, picture of what we got inside. The Indy silhouette. Another picture, a bunch of information, blah, 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 blah. And that. So let's just open this up and see what our Voodoo doll is. So here is our Voodoo doll. It has this little display stand that you can put it on. It's got like a little doll stand piece on it. Oh, it's still attached. And then we have the torture feather, which we'll get to that in a minute. But let's take a look at the Voodoo doll first. So it's a very, this is kind of, it's not quite wood. It's probably resin or something like that. For the head, very simplistic. The jacket, I mean, when I saw this jacket and some of the pants, some of the ways just looking at this, I'm like, it kind of reminds me of the vintage 12-inch Indy, which I love my vintage 12-inch Indy, but I remember when I first bought that in the mid-90s, I was like, I truly, I thought the hat that came with it was made by somebody's mother, and that wasn't what it was actually made for that. But some of it was kind of on the cheap side, and this material kind of reminds me of the jacket on the vintage Indy 12-inch. But, I was like, what did I expect? It's a Voodoo doll. It wasn't supposed to be fully like a really detailed model of Harrison Ford or anything like that. But it was just kind of funny there. So the Voodoo doll has, a very simple leather jacket. He's got a belt even on, tied around the pants, and you can see how it's just stitched up the side and everything on the jacket and everything. He does have a whip in his hand. So, we know this is Indiana Jones. He's got a leather jacket, he's got a hat, he's got a whip. It's got to be Indiana Jones. You got to figure when they were making the original that they were like, oh, we got to have all this so everybody knows this Voodoo doll is supposed to be Indiana Jones. So that's the Voodoo doll itself, and I wouldn't say it's all that exciting. It's pretty simplistic. But let's take a look at this pin here, because this is actually what I think is a cool part. It's made of a metal. It's got a big feather on it here. But look at the details. We have the skull. We got, obviously, these jewels that are not real there, but nice little details in there. It's got the pin. It is not sharp, so we're not going to poke anybody with it. Sadly, that means you can't, poke into your Voodoo doll with it. On the back side, we have a couple more jewels and another design. To me, this was almost the highlight of the whole thing. This pin looks really, really cool. The doll itself is kind of very simplistic. I mean, it's supposed to be. I get that. But I think the pin is what made it for me here. In the end, of all of these different things that they put out in this last year, I thought about buying some, but they seemed a little bit overpriced for what they were. And even this was originally overpriced. I would not have bought this if it wasn't on clearance when I bought it, and still felt kind of expensive. But it's kind of cool, and it's not something I have. Like, I have a fertility idol and things like that, but I've never had a Voodoo doll other than like a little tiny toy version that came with something. So it's kind of cool to get. Would I recommend it for other people? Honestly, it's going to be up to you. Is this something that you would find just being really cool? Okay. Like I said, found this at my Disney outlet store that we've got here in Marysville, Washington. But I think it's probably popped up at a few other places. And I haven't been back there in a little while. It might be even cheaper. Sometimes this stuff goes, if it sticks around for a little while, it goes down further in price. When I found this, if you go looking for it, this was not out on the sales floor. It was actually behind the counter. They sometimes store some of the more expensive stuff, that sort of thing, behind the counter, and that's where I found it. In fact, I was buying something else when I saw it sitting back there. I was like, how much is that? I want to buy that. And so there it was. So there we go. That is the Indiana Jones Voodoo doll from the Disney parks.